All right, everybody, welcome back. This is another edition of Marcus Espinal Training, and tonight we are going to segue into something different, but something productive and also something for all you guys out there. And today we are doing a player profile, and we will be talking about a gentleman by the name of Heriberto Hot Rod Rodriguez. Coach.
Anytime I hear that name, I gotta smile. I mean, because just a flash of memories come in my head from the time he was 10 years old to the time he graduated from Danbury High School, and now he's a police officer for New Haven. He just gotta you gotta love that kid, the passion, the desire that he brought, and the sense of humor, and he just smile ear to ear for that kid.
Sure. Growing up, I remember witnessing my brother play 12-year-old travel ball. And before that, we were playing in-house, DYB. And we were coached by a gentleman named Rick Flannery. And Rick Flannery, may God rest his soul. Ricky, if you're listening, Junior, we love you, man. Always keep you in our prayers. Jenny as well, and your guys' mom. Rick did an amazing job at picking teams. And I
Yes.
remember one day, it was one spring. We had this new kid on our team, and my father, he's translating for this guy. And so all of a sudden, he doesn't speak English. We got a new kid on the team. He does not speak and can communicate in English. And he just arrived from the Dominican Republic. And his name is Heriberto, as we just mentioned. And my dad gave him a nickname called Eddie. My dad just finished talking to him, and my dad goes, his name's Eddie, guys. So we all just start calling him Eddie, and Hot Rod, which is Eddie in this case. It was his big debut that day. You know, it was his big debut to show the team what he has. He just came from the Dominican Republic, so he had like a chip on his shoulder. And I remember Rod, he gets a ground ball to the outfield who was playing center field. And we were working on our cuts to home plate. And if any of you guys know Rogers Park here in Danbury, you know that behind Field 1, there's a gym called the War Memorial. Rod must have hit the front windshield, the front window of the War Memorial, because he let that ball sail, man. And Coach Flannery was like, "Wow, look at this guy's."
I mean, there's so many stories about Rod. A real quick one that we finally played for me. We had a travel game. We had a tournament up in Newtown. It was a district states, and Rod started. He was raw as raw. He's out there in left field. The first ball is hit to him. He's yelling. He's camped under. I got it. I got it. I got it. He looks like Ken Griffey Jr. out there. He looks great. He looks like Willie Mays. Right. The ball lands 10 feet behind him. 10 feet behind him, the ball lands, right? And we're all just shaking. We just put our head down and goes, well, that was Rod, because he was raw with his enthusiasm. I can still see that. And that's 15 years ago or something. And he's right there. But on the other hand, we say, okay, he would work. So we brought him down to the field the next day or two. Coach Blizna had a jugs gun, and literally for an hour and a half where he jagged fly balls down at Danbury High School for an hour and a half, and every practice. And make a long story short, by the time he got to high school, he was the starting center fielder from Danbury High. He went from not being able to literally catch a routine fly ball to being the starting center fielder for Danbury High School. That just gives you just a little bit of the passion, the desire, and the work ethic that he had.
And Hot Rod, he was always a guy who had a sense of awareness about him. He was a leader on and off the field. And I remember Rod, he had something about him that he did not back down from anybody.
No.
And I remember on one occasion, Marquise Marrero's father, Coach Marrero, if you guys listening, how you doing? I remember how he always used to draft good teams. He was coaching Desert Moon for a couple of years straight. They were like the Dodgers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember, Rod was on the team, and he was on our team, and we're facing them. And Rod's catching, and we're back in Mountainville at the time. And Mr. Marrero, he was always, giving signs, telling his players what to do, where to go. He was very active with his players. He didn't miss a beat, that guy. And I remember how Rod was catching. He was debuting as a catcher, and he was just dying to throw somebody out at second base. And I remember how Coach Marrero was watching Rod, and he was also watching and trying to steal, I guess, signs or something like that. I don't know what it is. Don't quote me on it. And Hot Rod catches on to whatever it was that he was doing, and Rod stops the game. He says, "Time," and he looks down to Coach Marrero. Coach Marrero was coming off of the coaching box a little bit,
Yeah.
and he yells and he goes, "Hey, get back to your position," because Rod felt like if he was looking beneath his sign, and Rod was dying to throw somebody out, Coach. So
Yeah.
Go
And
ahead.
then the thing with Rod is, like you said about, the kid was a natural leader. You know, he wasn't the best player on the team, but he was the hardest working player on the team. And he had the most passion on a team. And that combination is so lacking today. You know, you don't have to be the best ball player on your team to be the best leader. You lead by example. And boy, did that kid ever. And he got the respect of his teammates because of his work ethic. I mean, you know, Rod, even though he was a catcher, I always say joke Rod. I say, Rod, you're not a catcher. You're going to call it a new position called chase, because all you do is chasing after the ball because he wasn't catching it, right? But his hustle and desire, and he never lost any confidence in himself. And that's why, you know, that's one of the reasons why we converted him to the outfield. But that's what you're missing right now is the passion he had, the love for the game he had, and no one was more positive on the bench. We could be down 10-1, we could be up 10-0. You couldn't tell by Rod. He'd act the same way on the bench no matter what. He never got down. That kid, if we're down 5, 6, 7 runs, no problem. Let's go. I can still hear his voice in my head, and to this day, whenever now we run across him down maybe coming out of the War Memorial where he works out, because I believe he lives in Danbury. And I hear that voice. Hey, Coach. He's got that distinguished accent and stuff, you know. He goes, "Hey, Coach," and I know instantly it's Rod. It just brings a smile to my face because he's one of the guys. He's one of my guys, man. And we can go on telling stories about Rod the whole time, you know.
Yeah.
And that was great.
He was great. Rod was great, and ever since that 12-year-old travel team, it was coached by, help me here, Coach. It was coached by Justin's father.
Yes, it was Calitro.
Mr. Calitro, yes. It was coached with Ray Belizna, Mr. Marrero, and there was one more guy as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know who the other guy was.
It wasn't Artie Haddad, right?
No, it wasn't Art. He was a couple of years ahead of you guys. But I don't recall who it was. But like you said, your core guys are right there with Coach Ray.
And Rod, he became my idol instantly because I remember one day vividly they were playing on the Westerners field and it was a tournament. Yeah. It was like some end of the season tournament, and I'm watching Rod run down the line. He did like a swinging bunt. The third baseman had to come in, try and throw him out.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him fly.
Yeah.
Rod reminded me of Carlos Gomez. He was a young prospect in the New York Mets organization, and this guy was a bat out of hell, Coach. This guy was flying.
Yeah.
And I remember, and one of the things, if Rod, you're watching us here, which hopefully you will soon, your character, your inability to back down, and your workmanship was second to none. We were talking about this, and Coach, I want you to just give a word using Rod's example for today's youth and what we're seeing in youth sports.
Well, this is the most disappointing thing nowadays. As I was saying earlier to you, I'm doing this for quite a while. This is the first time I coached a game last week where the kids, they actually quit. They quit during the game. Body language is bad. Walking on and off the field. Attention span was non-existent. Where they look and they just quit. They gave up. And eventually they got mercy ruled, and that where it goes. Where now that's the difference between this age kid and the kid back in Rod's era, in your era, right? There was no quit. Kids picked up each other. Now there's a divide, unfortunately. There's a divide in the dugout. There's a divide off the field. The new era of player and parent is so different now, and it's not always positive. Yeah, there are some good parents, don't get me wrong, and there's some great players, but unfortunately, the majority right now is it's more about they're looking for the next shiny new penny. Back in the day, DYB was the only show in town, right? So, which was a good thing. Now we're not, and it's a bad thing in a way because, well, if we don't get our way here, we'll just go over here. Well, if that doesn't work out, we'll go over here. Because now you got multiple options, so you don't get the way that fits in. Instead of learning how to deal with the adversary, learning how to talk to things out, like you're gonna have to in your life and get older. It's always we'll quit and we'll just go someplace else. Unfortunately, that's the atmosphere that a lot of parents create for their kid, and the hot rods, the Marcus Espinals, the Spacemans, the Blizners, the Ricky Hot Knots, and all those people. They're in short supply right now, and it's sad. But we're going to keep coaching, and we're going to keep trying to help the kids because there's more of a need now for these programs than there was when I started back in '76 and onward. But quick story about Hot Rod. Rod would talk to the third person. Every now and then, Rod would talk to himself in his third person, right? So somehow I was coaching first base, and Rod's stealing, right? And Rod would say to me, he goes, "Hot Rod gonna go. Hot Rod gonna steal," right? I said, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, Hot Rod gonna steal. Hot Rod gonna steal." I said, all right. So the first baseman hears that. So the first baseman yells into the dugout, "Hey, he's going. So he goes, "Hot Rod's still gonna steal. Hot Rod's still gonna steal." So Hot Rod takes off. He steals the bag. He pops up and he looks towards me. He's safe. He looks. "I told you Hot Rod's gonna steal. I told you Hot Rod's gonna steal. I told you all Hot Rod's gonna steal." Oh my God, that was one of the funniest stories I ever had because Rod would talk to himself in the third person every now and then. Hot Rod gonna get hit. He goes, "Hot Rod gonna get hit today." Okay.
And for Hot Rod, one of the most amazing things about him is that his parents never showed up. I know his parents came from the Dominican Republic. They were new to the earth, but they just never showed. And so for Hot Rod to come upon us, go to the park, get on the teams, get into the summer ball. For everybody out there listening, and for all our parents especially, sometimes being a little bit more hands-off, sometimes being a little bit more, as far as support is concerned, not too pressurized for the kid, can actually benefit them in many ways. And one of the things we see in youth baseball nowadays is that the parents, they want to control.
Yes.
They want to control how the kid performs, how he plays, where he goes, what team he's signing up for. If it doesn't work out there, we're going to take him out right away, and we're going to go put him somewhere else. And it wasn't like that in Hot Rod's case.
No, and that's a very good point that you make because right now the parents are way too controlling and they're way too dominating, way too much, overly protective, and they got too many new shiny pennies out there they can take. Hot Rod, like I said, unfortunately, never had his parents come to the game, and so he wasn't worried about his father or mother coming down and saying, "Well, he's not playing because so and so and this and this and this," right? So in other words, a kid doesn't get a chance to learn how to deal with adversary. Doesn't get a chance to learn how to deal through his problems that are keeping him there. It's so easy for mom and dad to come in and bail his ass out, and we'll just take him. We'll go over here. We'll try this club team. We'll try that club team, and I think we're making a big mistake because baseball is the number one sport how to teach life lessons. Sure. Can't do it in football. Can't do it in basketball. They're all good. They have their points, but in baseball, they say in sports, well, sports shows character. And baseball, baseball shows character. It doesn't build character, it shows your character. Baseball, it shows your character, how resilient you are. How can you bounce back from disappointment? How can you bounce back from your teammates just made 3 errors in a row and you're on the mound? How are you going to react, right? And it gets carries over into life. And that's the thing I'm concerned about now is because now the parents are just over the top on a lot of stuff. Yeah, they're all good intention and stuff, but they don't see it. I'm looking at it in my rearview mirror. I have 54 years of this, and I've seen that the kids that have been successful in life are the kids who have had to deal with their successes or failure on the baseball field without extra parental involvement. Now, the best thing a parent can say is after a baseball game is, "Hey, how come you Man, how come you didn't go 3 for 3? How come you only got 2 hits? No. Best thing you can say is, I love watching you play. Let's go get some ice cream. And that's it.
Sure.
That's it. You know, once the kid gets in the car, the game's over.
Yeah.
Right? The game's over.
Yeah. And being supportive, right? Sometimes they're too negative. Sometimes, you know, they don't do enough. You know what I mean? So having that happy balance so that the player can know that he's loved and accepted, and whatever he does on the field isn't necessarily going to dictate how his parent sees him, right? Well, one last story here about Hot Rod. I remember when he first arrived from the Dominican Republic, he had one game in which his family did come out, and he had about 6 cousins of his. They were all females, and they all came out.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this man walked to home plate, and at that time there was somebody in the booth playing walk-up songs.
Yeah.
And while he's walking to home plate, all of his female cousins, they're all like yelling like, woo! And I've never seen a baseball player till today strut like he did. He walked up to the plate like if he was going to hit a 500-foot shot, and I have to say this for real, this is in real time. He actually hit it out.
Yeah, he did.
He hit it out that day, and he was going nuts. He took the ball. Rick Flannery gave him the ball. They signed it, and that was his first home run here in Connecticut.
Yeah, he loved the dramatic. He loved the dramatic. And like I said, it was like, how am I gonna go? I'm gonna go steal it. How am I gonna steal? How am I gonna get a hit? You know. But he embraced it, and he wasn't afraid to fail. You never saw Rod down, right? He could go 0 for 4, but all he would do is, coach, let's go hit. He'd drive me crazy. Rod, come on, let's go hit. And that's before we had lights on the cages and all that kind of stuff. So we were going to dark. We had the headlights on the car trying to hit. But that was Rod. But that's why he became. But when he was 10 years old, he couldn't catch a cold. But then he goes a few years later, just down the road, the starting center fielder for Danbury High School. I mean, that doesn't just happen by just showing up. And that's the damn work ethic I want to get across to these kids. But it's so difficult now. But Rod, he was never afraid to fail. And Rod was a good-looking boy. He had his own little entourage down there as well, too. So, you know, but I never saw Rod without that smile. I never saw him without a smile. Yes, it did. He had that big grin on his face, big smile, and the kid just loved being on the baseball field. He loved being on the field. I mean, for me, they were the glory days of coaching. I mean, I love coaching right now, but because of the passion. And I can't tell you how many games we won or lost in any season, right? But I could tell you the kids who would catch the ball with their teeth if they had to.
They did.
Right? They really did. And unfortunately, we don't get that nowadays. But we're gonna keep trying. But Rod was one of the special ones.
God bless him. So, Rod, if you're listening to us, we want to thank you again. Thank you for being a part of this team, the team that continues on throughout the course of time, being a tremendous example and never giving up for the young people today. If I knew Hot Rod well, I know he would sit before them and he would say to them, listen, guys, don't quit, work hard. Nothing in life you can take for granted. Go out there and give it 110%. He would definitely say that where he came from in the Dominican Republic, the opportunities, the resources are not available as they are here. And he would tell the guys to not get too crazy about different batting cages and different teams that you can go sign up and play summer ball and spring ball and fall ball and everything. He would say, use what you got in front of you. And Rod, we've seen it be a success, not only for you here in Danbury Youth Baseball and Rogers Park, and also at the competitive levels like Danbury High School and so on and so forth, but we also have been able to see it in your life. So, Hot Rod, God bless you, and we thank you for everything.
God bless you, Hot Rod. I love you. And thank you for our service, because I'm about to mention, not only is he a police officer right now, he was in the Marine Corps.
Correct.
So thank you for your service, Rod. We love you, Marcus and myself, and we look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Take care.